Prova, prova. I will make my presentation first, Jesse. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me. I will speak English. I hope you all can understand. Okay, can we start with the presentation? Okay, thank you. So I will just after these beautiful presentations by the artists, it's very prosaic sort of, to come down to the project details which allowed the artists to interact with the textile firms in Prato and elsewhere, but just for you to understand how it was possible to do these things in the last couple of years. The project is, the Creative Wear project is coming to an end in a couple of months, actually. And so it was a long path involving these partners, these initial partners spanning this area in the Mediterranean. You see the white dots are the original partners, while the blue ones are the joining ones that were added last year as more hubs of creativity for the textile and clothing sector. So, Creative Wear is an Interreg Med project, which means that there is a program in Europe which allows partners from the Mediterranean to work together. They get funds to work together around different themes, from environment to SMEs to, in this case, creativity, cultural and creative industries. And the focus of the project is to let artists that usually don't interact with the textile sector to have a say with people who, as a business, work in this sector. Actually, the Creative Wear project is in the fold of a bigger Horizon project, Horizon 2020, which is the research program of the European Union. And it motivated the idea that we can create design, making and place laboratories to, let's say, stimulate the potential which is not, which is hidden in the mind of the people, in the territory, and in the ability to do things of the people, which is not yet as fully exploited. So this is the interaction that the project was putting in place among the textile and clothing industry, the artists, and the creatives. To do that, the project set up a number of creative hubs which have different characteristics, and each hub has a different flavor. You will see that we have at this time 12 of them, and so it will be, each hub will be a physical place where you can co-work, you can interact with other workers, other artists, other creatives, business people from the fashion sector, and even the people. And then you will have a digital space within the hub. So you will have tools, you will have a web space to display your work. And you will have an open governance for the hub. So it's a very democratic place where you can let the energies of the people and the fashion world interact. And then we have values. These values were proposed a couple of years ago, even more than 2 years ago, and I'm sure new values would emerge at this time, because now we are in the middle of a circular economy festival, and the circularity would be added there for sure. But the shared values that we started with are environment, social inclusion, creativity, being open, cooperative, and respectful to each other. So these are the cultural and creative industries that were involved in the project right from the beginning. So you see that we are very inclusive. We don't speak about creativity just about pure art, but we can apply the art to create a new object, a new marketing approach, a new software maybe, a new publication, and so on. These are the stakeholders that were involved gradually along the way. So this number could be even not updated at this time. Could be more than this. And these are the 5 initial hubs that are also 5 partners of the project at the beginning. So one is in Athens, focusing on art and artists. One is in Valencia, is more technology-oriented. And one is the one in Prato that you heard about, and that you have seen the work in the video out there a few minutes ago. The crowd hub in Sicily, which is very much focused on including people to co-create together with the artists and the fashion people, fashion sector people. And the social hub in Slovenia, which has very interesting and helpful projects to make inclusive productions, even for the needful. So here you have a few pictures. I will just go very quickly through the 12 hubs that we have in the end, because 5 hubs were the initial ones, and then 7 hubs were added last year. So this is pictures from the art hubs in Athens. This is how traditional clothing in Alcoy in Valencia were redesigned and redrawn through laser technologies. And this is how the work came out to be. This is the Heritage Hub in Prato, which I won't speak about because you already heard about it, and it was a very big success thanks to the interaction between resident designers and a lot of work that was done within the firms and also presented at Premiere Vision, at Milano Unica, and it was very, very enthusiastically appreciated by all people working and clients and customers and artists. This is the Crowd Hub in Palermo. So a lot of interaction with the territory, with the space in Palermo, with the performers, with music, with clothes and fabrics. This is the Social Hub in Slovenia, where these social projects are being developed and carried out. And these are the new hubs, the 7 new hubs that even extend beyond the Mediterranean, at least the eligible area of the program, because they go from Turkey to the Atlantic Ocean on the other side. So, and these were added last year. And just going very quickly through them, we have a new one in Apulia, south of Italy, where they are very specialized about tactile, also sensation from the clothing, the surface. They study in depth the feeling from the clothes, from the fabrics, which is the identity hub in Apulia. Then the skills hub in Thessaloniki, which is more focused on training and developing skills among young people. We have in Barcelona, a fashion and design hub in Igualada, close to Barcelona, with Fitex. So, and then we have another hub in Izmir in Turkey. We call it the Awareness Hub, also focused on developing new business with technical textiles and creative projects. And then we have Città dell'Arte, Fondazione Pistoletto in Biella, in the northern part of Italy, which is a foundation created by artist Pistoletto, which is doing a lot of workshops and projects with young designers. And finally, we have a training hub in Croatia, Čaković. And in France, the last one, Bidart. Okay, on the other side of the coast of the Mediterranean, Mediterranean France. So now, slowly, the hubs from creative wear, because the project is coming to an end, will be, let's say, absorbed or taken in the bigger TCBL Horizon 2020 project. They will become TCBL business labs, each one with its own, let's say, contribution, creative contribution, technical contribution, and different flavors from the different hubs. You see creativity has many, many facets. And these try to cover as many as possible. And in the end, now we are trying to figure out the potential of all these hubs through, it's not a mandala, but it's a Canva. When we come to a mandala, we'll end the work then. And so the Canva is where we map the creativity with the possibility to exploit the creativity from the different hubs. This is a new instrument that we have from the University of Valencia, which so it was a genius, very intelligent feat to apply the canvas to the hubs, so to exploit the full potential of what is there. Thank you, and if you have questions, then we'll have time to do that. Thank you, bye.
Microphones? Okay. Thank you, Paolo. That was, in fact, quite necessary to have an overview of the way the project was working. What we wanted to do now was to take this opportunity for each of you followed sort of your own path in that between the, and we're given different readings of the issue that we're looking at. The issue we're looking at, how can a different type of creativity than the fashion designer or the sort of, encoded creativity that's encoded into the industry, how can new stimuli, new types of creativity help us to open up the mindsets? Because achieving sustainability or a circular economy, there are technical aspects to it, but it's mainly a question of a totally different culture of, as we were seeing even with the last presentation, a totally different culture of the way we relate to others and to the world and to the environment surrounding us. Let's assume, because we've seen that, we have evidence of that when genuinely new signals come from people like you, the industry sees it and they recognize it. And it's their job, and they're good at it, at identifying that and carrying that forward. But let's look a little bit about how that previous process was working. What barriers were you opening up? And I think it would be interesting if you commented a little bit on the work of the other people. You've all presented your own work, okay? So let's just not directly, did you like it or didn't you like it? But if we look at you all addressed different types of themes. One was artistic interpretation. There were themes of technology, using new technologies. There were themes of the social and collective dimension. There were themes of new symbolic interpretations. I mean, there were different, how would you say, keys to unlock different processes. So we can use them to comment. So let's start with the question of technology, just because it's perhaps the furthest from the last presentation we saw. Is technology an enabler? What kind of stimulus what kind of relationship can we have? Technology can be an opportunity to express things in different ways, but technology can also be manipulated to create new things, new objects. You were dealing with new fabrics, for instance. So a few words. What is how does a creative see technology, and how does a creative use technology to help us open up our minds?
Okay, I would take it backwards. How can we use technology to bring awareness to the public so that they reframe how they see fashion? Because I'm dealing with fashion, of course, there's other fields, but how to reframe how they see fashion, to take them away from this idea that fashion is fast fashion or high-end fashion that happens somewhere else, how to reconnect them with the heritage we have in Europe, how to enable them to get involved in the creative process, to take ownership of segments of the creative process, to maybe hack the process, because we as industry insiders in a way are indoctrinated in our own ways. So a lot of the time technology helps us to better understand the end consumer, how to reach them, how to animate them, how to make them care about what they see, what they wear, about their purchases, where they put the money, about who is going to get food on the table because they've bought a skirt from this local company, let's say, or from a...
But what technologies are you having in mind right now when you say
well,
that?
across the spectrum, social media, technologies in terms of obviously innovating the processes, the making of the materials, the making of the garments, enable them to, as I said, maybe be part of the process so they can, customization, let's say, it's one thing, and on the other end is to tell the stories, so the social media, how that is going to, in a way, expand and touch,
Dimitris, some words from you? What about the clothes that light up in the dark and darken up in the light, or whatever, change, become purple, or it's almost clothes that are talking to you, no?
Yes, I see fashion an opportunity to bring people closer. Fashion industry used to separate people. It was obviously how rich people could buy very, very expensive clothes and has an impact on society. Now, fashion has changed dramatically. Political messages like Pussy Hat, driving people to roads and catwalks to speak against Trump, for example. Even the yellow vest, that it's not fashionable, but it's a streetwise movement. And I really love this because I belong to ethical fashion for more 20 years, and I strongly believe that it can help society to move forward without demonstrations who end up in tragedies. We can declare our feelings and emotions against states, against everything, with a very democratic way and a very artistic way at the same time. People can express their opinion through clothes, and it's really very, very important for me.
Yes, there's almost a Duchamp dimension to the Gilets jaunes, or it's Duchamp plus punk a little bit. Can we move on, and some reflection on what you saw with the technology, the materials, or also the hackathon method? What you were saying made me think of what we saw downstairs, which were some products that were designed during a sewing hackathon, interpreting new materials. Could you see a collective action being as a follow-up of the work you've been doing?
I would like to say a thing that in contemporary art sometimes we use different kind of materials. It depends what I want to say, and so I can choose a kind of medium. In this case, fabrics is the medium that help us to express our creativity, and we have to say thank you to Fabio. I would like, yes, because for us it was really important to understand the process, how to make it, because I'm a photographer, so I come from fashion, but I work in fashion many years ago, and I design as a designer, but not fabric designer. So here it's a little bit different, and I would like.
Yes, that's very interesting what you're saying, because textile art sort of traditionally uses textile as an object, manipulates it as a medium in the sense of an object that can lead to certain. But what you were doing here was very process oriented and very much getting into the materialness of the fabrics, and not so. In a certain sense, the fabric is the medium, but also the message. You were working towards a new awareness of what is inside textiles. No.
Yes, we use fabrics for these reasons. For us, was a big opportunity also to create a connection between art and also maybe fashion world, I don't know, because the company in Prato works with fashion company, but not with artists. So this is another interesting things to say.
But that's our innovation. Fashion reads Gilets jaunes. Fashion reads what's happening in society in theory when it's not a broken system. So.
Yes, I hope it could be continuous, this. And do you want to say something about this?
Because about technologies in our workshop, I want to say that we has not, come si dice, sorry, I prefer to speak in Italian.
Come vuoi.
Cioè, non abbiamo pregiudizi sulle tecnologie. Sembrerà paradossale dirlo in un contesto in cui si esplorano tecnologie all'avanguardia,
We don't have any prejudices for or against technology.
Ma noi abbiamo fatto un salto tra esperienze passate e proiezioni future, cioè i nostri lavori un po' si sono alimentati tecnologicamente di quanto più c'è all'avanguardia. Penso alle macchine taglio laser, certe macchine che usa Fabio, tutte le esperienze di Arca, di Palermo e di qua, ma che tengono dentro anche un passato del saper fare che è imprescindibile.
We were looking at connecting the heritage in the past with the future, even if you consider the laser cutter at Arca, which was used to cut out the symbols there. There's a lot of past in there.
Yeah.
And using the technology highlights that connection, if that was your point,
exactly,
right?
Yeah.
Between the past and the future, and we're in the middle.
It's very important how each worker, each artist, each artisan collaborate with this con la sua, sorry, my English, I'm set on the French at this moment, cioè come ognuno può contribuire con la sua esperienza di sapere, e quindi questo ponte, questo andare continuamente avanti e indietro tra passato e presente, tra tecnologie vecchie e nuove, diventa fondamentale anche per noi artisti.
He's returning to the collective dimension.
Faccio un altro.
Saying he's returning to the collective dimension, saying that this connection from the past brings into play each of our individual pasts.
Yeah.
And that by operating on this bridge between the past and the future, the individual pasts are transformed into a collective dimension. Is that?
Exactly. Beh, abbiamo fatto anche una prova, cioè io ho provato con Fabio a usare la modalità che è della pittura, cioè di mettere il colore, il dripping della pittura, l'abbiamo fatto col tessile.
He said, I did a test with Fabio. I tried to use the method of painting, dripping color.
Dripping color, no, abbiamo fatto con made by. Allora, cosa succede? Cioè queste operazioni in cui le tecniche nuove si confrontano
These
con
operations where the new techniques are mixed with the traditional techniques.
E si incrociano differenti competenze dove la tecnologia diventa la modalità per esprimere al meglio delle idee, cioè alla fine è questo quello che ci interessa.
The technology becomes an enabler for allowing us to express our ideas.
That's enough.
A link. When you create a connection between what you want to say and what you can express with this kind of medium. This was really interesting for us.
But I think it was also the challenge, and this is central to creative wear, the challenge of working with somebody who's got a factory, somebody who's in the business, and somebody who has to sell ultimately, that brings also a new dimension into this stimulus, right? That factory, those machines are there for something, right? Can we move on to Angelica?
Yes.
You, can I ask you a question about the world of fashion? Do you feel comfortable with that?
I don't know yet because it's my first time that I do something like this. I'm coming from another field that you know. I have studied mathematics and afterwards.
So you're coming from mathematics.
Yes, and afterwards I studied fine arts. So I don't have so much to do with the world of fashion. It's my first time that I do something on this field. But I'm trying to learn things about this field also and to get inspired from other artists or fashion designers. And also I like very much to see new technologies and how other people use them in order to create things combined with fashion and art and technology.
But you're an observer and you see patterns, no?
Excuse me?
You see patterns. Are you seeing patterns? It's a very English word. Of the way the impact happens, the way these artistic expression affect people.
Yes.
We all have clothes on. This is fashion
Yes.
as much as your thing. Are we thinking about that? Are we reflecting on that? What kind of operations are happening to the people who are coming to see this? What kind of stimuli is being received by the people in the world? Do you think, in your impression, as an outsider to the world, not a professional? What do you think the effect can be on people of seeing this type of work?
I don't know.
I'm sorry then.
Sorry. I don't know.
Very honest
Maybe
answer.
I don't understand very much the question. The impact of the people that they see this work that we do here.
Okay, I'll put it another way.
Yes.
I mean, you could answer this also as a citizen in a certain sense. most of our decisions about what clothes to buy and where
Yes.
to buy them
Yes.
are determined by some mechanisms, which are marketing, television, advertisement, Facebook posts of peers who are wearing something, and so on and so forth. These are all mechanisms that shape our perceptions of that shape our decisions also about what to buy. And what we're seeing here are attempts to change that logic.
Yes, the perception of
That was my question. It
Yes,
was, the question
okay,
was not
okay.
properly formulated.
No, maybe I didn't.
Do you think that we are capable of changing that logic?
I think
Should we maybe make advertising bigger and louder, saying the opposite
Yes.
thing? Or is this the way?
I think it's a beginning, but I think it's very difficult to persuade people in order to be more.
We know that. The Gilets jaunes are a lesson, perhaps, in maybe how not to do it, but okay, what you get around?
I think it's not impossible, but it has a lot of work to be done in order to achieve this. I think maybe a good idea is to put this in everyday life and
Right.
and maybe in social media and other means of we can present it like really that it can happen and can work very nice to people and how it can change. There are so many influencers that are trying to, with the same way we could also do this in a more direct way to the
But that, yes, then you're talking also about the participatory dimension of the social hub, the open events, the things where we were involving people in Palermo, the events in the streets
Yes,
and in the stores.
Because the more closer it looks to the people, the more easy it is to make it happen and make it in the everyday life. Because if they just see it in an exhibition and well, okay, I will come and speak about it, or and it's very nice presented here, but it's not the same to can touch
To
it
go
or wear
outside.
it and yes. And
So you're saying we should take this to the streets in a
not
certain
to the
sense.
streets, no. To make it more. What? Yes, 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 to the object. Yes, the distance. No, yes. Yes.
So Luca, if we can get this conversation, a conversation between these creative impulses and citizens, normal people on the streets around us, going, then if the industry, the presence, I talk to you from your perspective from my text, where in theory you talk to companies, right?
Yes.
What is, how are industries, the industry tends to like if they see a technology innovation, because you can say this will save you money, or you can make a new project. But this kind of innovation is softer, it's more, what is this the right way to penetrate that world?
Well, maybe I can speak about my experience in ITEX. So ITEX is a research institute, and normally working in a development project between companies, textile company. And maybe, yes, in this last year, a lot of companies are very interested in apply and explore new technology with the goals of save money in one aspect, for save money for reduce the water consumer, the chemical consumer, or apply more sustainability technology. And so I have a lot of experience about this technical application, not only in the laboratory, but move this opportunity to the production. I think that a lot of companies, so in Spain, I have experience, my experience is in Spain, try to change the mentality, the idea of the normal market, the normal fashion, the fashion market that present in the last year in Europe and in the world. I think it's a good opportunity to working with them and explore new possibility.
For instance, the hackathon
Yeah.
in Slovenia was using your materials. What was the reaction of the companies to seeing those? Were they seeing new things they hadn't thought of coming out of that?
So in this collaboration, we sent to Slovenian material from Spain,
Right.
and Petra used, yes.
We'll get, yeah. There's another microphone somewhere.
Sorry.
No.
Just to help, because here, like, oh, is this one is working? It's not. Oh, it works. Does it work? No. It doesn't look like I can shout. But as I, okay, thank you. So I have to help Luca there because we have not closed the circle on that one. It's actually an interesting question because designers, when they were confronted with technical materials, and these are designers with few years experience, they are used to working with classical materials. The knits, the jersey knits, the woven woolens and so forth. And all of a sudden they have this new material to work with, and their first question was like, what do I do with this? So the first thing that you do, and even the public, the consumer, is how can I use this? What does it do for me, for what I want to do? For as a designer, my vision is the field I want to work in. I do accessories, I do clothing. How can I apply this new technology to what I am already doing? And what can I learn, for how I want to develop going forward? And I think the same question might be asked by the public. Because, technology on one hand is happening in optimizing processes within the industry, cost-saving technologies. And those, they don't need to be justified to the public. We do that because it saves money to us as a company. But when we're talking about sustainable fabrics, when we're talking about changing, again, the perception of the public to stop, buying too much of a certain type and then trying and changing their ways of their habits, they need to be educated. First, you need to tell them why is that good for them, and how it will change their lives. So again, it's relatability. And in that sense, with the Fashion Hub, with the hackathon, we just started this process. It was the first one. I see potential, but we need to put a structure together so that the second one probably will feed back to the companies better all these findings.
It would also be interesting to broaden the scope of the hackathon to involve artists and different disciplines into the process. I mean, that could be an interesting way to go forward. I wanted to shift gears a little bit and go back to the question about connecting the past to the future, because there was the whole question of the digital archives, the textile archives. And there was also something that is not totally visible here, but you were beginning to look at it, which is about the process, the know-how of people who know how to weave, people who know how to sew, people who know how to make a pair of shoes, or the highly skilled processes, which are part of tradition. And I think a lot of circular economy logics is a question of recovering, or there's a feeling, if not true, of recovering lost knowledge about how to do things and when life was simpler and when grandmother used to keep pieces of string that might be useful for something. That recycling is part of an old... Recycling made me think about the discussion you were talking about, jumping from the past towards the future. The Digital Heritage Project looked very specifically at the role of artists in making that connection very directly. Looking at old collections of things from the 80s, that old, and adapting them to new designs. What role do you think can this explicit reference to digging up stuff from the past? Also, that's an identity question. Again, you were talking about individual and collective identities, and there's a collective identity in, say, the Prato district and the heritage, or whatever. This one works.
No, this one works as well. I made it work. I'm very techy.
We can go around.
I think I'm going to be repeating myself, because even that I see as a way of relating to the public. Because we must understand we're only a few generations away from crafters within our own family heritage. So my mother, she sewed my clothes when I was little. All my carnival costumes she made herself because she couldn't get them. My grandmother, she did alteration. My grandmother, she was spinning for somebody. So my grandfather, he could repair shoes. He was the son of a shoemaker and so forth. So this is the way we reconnect with the craft, is reconnecting with our own personal heritage. And again, it's a way of reanimating people, kind of letting people rediscover this European heritage, because it's very important. We don't want to lose it. Yeah, through reminding them that we all have a seamstress or a weaver, or
and this can go, I think,
shepherds as well.
Beyond what you were saying. Okay, it will raise awareness about the facts, about the impacts, and we all know that. But events are showing that doesn't seem to really have an impact. What has an impact is
emotional response.
Exactly,
it's an emotional response. It's knowing, and when you know, you can't unknown. So when you are presented with a fact. That stays with you.
So it would be, maybe that's an area that we could explore further, is how to, because the project in Prato looked at textile archives, which were objects, no? The objects in the basement. But those objects tell stories, and we need to do more work maybe on telling those stories or digging up those stories.
And not just stories, getting them involved, because it's a matter of, it's also, you can tap into the work satisfaction, for instance. A lot of people that, and this is another area, but a lot of people that have a modern job, sometimes they have like a plot of land that they want to work, because at the end of the day, if you do something, if you make something, if you make a belt from scratch, or a pot from, what do you make pots from? I forgot. But you can, ceramic pot. You know, you might have a job 5 to 9 that's really kind of drones on and on and on. But in this case, you can say, I've made this, and that becomes part of your heritage, that connects with the heritage of, the history of your family, and something that you can pass down as well, right. So creating heirlooms, personal heirlooms, not just on a national level, not just items that they can one day be placed in a museum like this, but items that are around the house as a permanent reminder of where we're coming from, and what we're leaving behind.
Dimitris, so is the circular economy fashionable? Is it old-fashioned, or is it modern, or how do we need to conceive it?
I strongly believe that circular economy is a necessity. And we can live if we don't pay attention to circular economy. We in the Athenian Art Hub pay attention to heritage, but the most contemporary message is the cooperation. What really happens right now here is very important, because cooperation is the message. I strongly agree with you before that we should regard our heritage, but the most modern message is how we live on a planet in different nations, in different countries, but on the same planet. And we have to pay attention to this point. And what really like to Athens right now, it's the dress of mine. has helped from the Art Hub to come here. And SOFA, SOFA is an organization that used to produce shoes years ago, comes up right now with refugees. And this is very important for me because the message is this, the communication and to be all united.
I need to stimulate you more because you've already gone on very much about that collective dimension. Are there other aspects of, I'm trying to give you new challenges. If you think of quilting, if you think of sewing, if you think of actions that are collective by definition, could you work with that? That's almost a quilt. I mean, there's almost a collective dimension from that mosaic.
Okay, I can give you an example. 4 years ago, with my association, we invited other 3 artists, and we asked them to create a collective installation, to invite people to co-create with us a big installation. So, because sometimes in contemporary art, everything is, come si dice, autoreferenziale.
Self-referential.
In this end, sometimes people who doesn't know the world of contemporary art is afraid about it. So we start to think that maybe it's interesting to create a connection with common people, with people who doesn't know anything about this. And so in that case, we decided to create a big installation with gli scarti dei tessuti.
The leftovers.
So we asked qualche azienda pratese, company in Prato, some companies here in Prato, some piece of fabrics, and in 1 month and a half came about 150 people to create with us this big installation. So every person who come feel part of this creation. And so this is an example of collective involved. And so with this, we made this, this is a small example about co-creation and collaboration with other person, other artists, and also in this case with the company. You spoke, you said a word, know-how. So here in Prato, we can, in this case, in this field, so we have a strong know-how about this.
Yes. Yeah. Gandolf.
I want to give an example, concrete example, because I am a participatory artist. Just my research is focused on the participation of people in my projects. We can have a look at this, my art piece, but I want to realize it with a lot of people where each one can bring its own symbol. So, because at this moment I am interested in through the art experience, bring together different people from different parts of the world. So sharing experience, sharing, come si dice, sharing symbols, cioè condividere sì, condividere quella parte di noi che apparentemente non può essere messa accanto all'altro, perché per me
Sharing that
interessa anche in un discorso, scusami, completo poi così, mi interessa anche capire in che modo oggi i discorsi che riguardano le chiusure dei gruppi, i comunitarismi possono superarsi attraverso anche delle esperienze artistiche che contengano dentro tutta la complessità dei nostri mondi, che è tecnologica, artistica, eccetera, eccetera. Non so se si riesce a tradurre questo.
From what I remember, he's talking about a strong emphasis on the participatory dimension of his art, and particularly creating situations where very different people are sharing that part of their personal sphere which you consider is not shareable, which you consider that cannot be confronted with someone else.
Exactly.
And overcoming that barrier as a mechanism which allows for new openings and new creations of community.
Yeah. Vale sia per la dimensione tecnologica che per la dimensione creativa, cioè il mettere assieme innesca dei meccanismi incredibili, e questo il nostro percorso, il nostro workshop lo ha incredibilmente dimostrato, cioè
Sì.
proprio è la base, la dimensione collettiva oggi è la base per superare dei gap senza i quali non potremmo andare avanti. Cioè, ci credo come statement artistico ma anche personale.
Their experience was a definite proof of concept of this approach. Angelica, something about your memory and your traditions. What do you remember from your family or your life that can be part of a circular economy concept? From your personal memories of when you were growing up, were there habits or uses that are not happening anymore, and why were they lost?
Something that they used to do that it's not happening anymore?
People used to repair things. I always get, you used to be able to repair.
No, we didn't use to repair things.
No?
We were just throwing.
You're too young
No, I'm not
to
that
even
young,
remember
but,
that.
something that they don't do anymore.
Or what is the impact on you when we talk about, Petra was talking about her family, where they would sew the clothes and repair their own shoes and
Yes, I
and
have.
all.
Maybe repairing shoes was happening earlier, I think, but it's something that, and how this can be used in
Today, can you imagine people getting a mentality of repairing is apparently beginning to be in fashion, no? People are opening sort of fab labs where you can go and repair things. Do you see people being open to that and interested in that kind of thing? What are the difficulties in?
Apart from recycling things, I don't think that they're very used to repairing things anymore.
No, well, yes, I agree with that. The question is, but a circular economy means we need to begin to think that way, no?
Yes, but I don't know in which way it could be.
How we can get there.
Yes.
Because the forces are very strong. Dimitris, maybe you had an idea on that?
What really happens in Athens right now, people change clothes. There are very many locations that you can go close to let them for people who are homeless or refugees, and this is really important. And we can see again shoes repairing stores now. Actually, it doesn't happen for clothes so much, this issue. But I hope that it's gonna change because Angelique is really young, and but actually I was wearing my bigger brother clothes, in the elementary school at least, because then the things change and we feed the landfills. Now we have to do quite the opposite.
That was not an accusation. It was just a question to you as the younger generation. Can you see that becoming in fashion, people repairing things?
Yes, it could be.
Not out of necessity. Well, necessity can help drive it.
Yes, if maybe we find a way to repair things in a better way, or maybe to make it repair something and maybe take it to be something else, or something
Yes.
more technological, or something more to give it another...
To reinvent things.
Yes, to reinvent the way we use things. Maybe this could be more interesting or more...
So that would be a creative...
Maybe.
In a creative mindset to repair things, not just
Yes.
fix old things and see how much longer it lasts, but to turn it into something
Yes,
new.
Maybe turn
Yeah.
it or give it another way of another way to use it, or more possibilities. Maybe it's a more
To give new life, a
Yes.
second life. That there's upscaling, it's sort of called, yes. To give new life to things. And maybe we could work on that. There's a lot of that happening actually around, and I think Fiore will be talking about that in a few minutes. Petra or Luca, do you want to come in, or should we let...
No, I'm not a younger, but I know to repair my clothes. I think. So
You're not
I
as old
want
as some of
to add only one idea, because maybe in my opinion, it's so interesting to recover all technical solution, all method of working, the textile or the clothing, and apply this with new technology. For example, in my work, now we study and recuperate the dyeing with natural plants, and use this in industrial application. So it's possible now, and I think it's another way to obtain these goals that you're speaking now today.
But you were also doing stuff with recycled materials, those
Yes,
panels,
yes,
and
of course,
getting
yes.
some really beautiful materials out
Yes.
of them.
It's you're speaking about
The stuff we
the
saw
wools.
at ITEX. Yeah,
Yeah,
the wools.
yes, it's in this case reuse the wool waste generated in the industrial process in order to produce insulating panel for eco-building construction.
Yeah, but they were beautiful. You should give some of those to Gandolfo and see what he does with them. No, some really interesting
Yeah,
stuff. Recycling can become an art, no, and upscaling.
Yeah.
Petra, you were trying to say something.
No, it's the make, do, and mend. The make, do, and mend is actually a big trend. I used to live in London, and one of the places I shopped was Liberty's. And Liberty's haberdashery section, beginning of 2000, they were looking to close it. Now it's one of the most revenue generating departments in Liberty's. John Lewis, which is another big shop, their haberdashery department was always hailed as the best one to go to. It was a quarter of a floor, now it sprawls across the whole floor. So the idea of repairing clothes, making anything yourself, it's definitely something that has taken hold of the fashion kind of scene.
Why do you think that is? If you go to Liberty's, you're not that poor.
No, yeah, well, yeah, but
What is it that people are liking about doing it?
it's getting involved in the process. Like one of the things is the in a way globalization factor, where you go down any English high street and you have the same brands, the same offering. So this is a way of actually, because you can't afford high fashion clothing, but you potentially can afford a piece of Liberty fabric, and you can fashion something quite unique out of that fabric. For instance, in Ljubljana, one of the designer that created that, the dress that I presented downstairs, she is, the black one, she is part of a collective that established the first kind of sewing cafe in Ljubljana. And what they do, she teaches sewing workshops, and they structure these workshops that they teach, okay, today we're going to make a bomber jacket, and people come and make a bomber jacket, and they get fabric from like dead stock. They have a selection of fabrics, that dead stock, that is from the 70s, from the 80s. It's really jazzy fabric. Some are it's horrible to the touch, especially from the 70s, but people like the idea that they can get something unique, something their own, their personal, they put their own personal touch into that garment, and that nobody else will have it, and they didn't have to pay an arm and a leg for it.
Fabio. Le tue impressioni, chiuderei con te. Tu sei in teoria l'industriale, è giusto. What is, no, grab a...
What can I say?
La tua risposta, che cosa ti viene in mente dopo queste riflessioni? Per te come industriale?
In realtà, really, I'm thinking about myself when I'm talking about memories, about I think about myself. I live in a small village that was developed around a factory. And when the factory closed, everybody bought these small pieces of factory at home. And my grandfather had a mechanical mechanical weaving loom in a room of the house. And I remember when I was really almost a baby, staying in a wooden box with a spindle, with a yarn, playing with these things. And so I'm thinking, I'm living really in the middle of textile from all my life. And this is my world, really. And I tried to keep all experience I collect during my life, and I try to get there or inspiration for my job. In my company, as Gandolfo and Pamela says, we have a lot of techniques used also usually not in conventional way, and I feel myself like a big pot where I put all experience, textile experience, all I saw during my life. As somebody, with a spoon, I mix everything and try to get out something new. And really, the mission of my company is to, when some customer asks us what's new, I like to be able to give this one or another one. You can do something different. The mission is to supply to our customer new tools, supply to the fashion world, new tools for realizing new ideas, new concepts in sustainability as well in the fashion world.
And what did you get out of this project in particular, this experience?
Oh, this experience is really, 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 I can share the same sensation with Gandolfo and Pamela, because they see this experience from the side of the artist. I see it from the technical side, because I show them some possibility with techniques, some possibility to communicate with fabrics. But they ask me something different. And so this is a new input for making a step ahead. And so for developing the artwork of Barbara, the pink one. I have to set up a new technique of felting wool, because she needs to have a convex surface, almost a half sphere. And I try to develop it with a new technique using different kind of wool with different shrinkage. That during the process, one layer shrink less, one layer more, and develop in a spheric surface. And it is a new tool for my company, because tomorrow I will be able to give to my customer a three-dimensional fabric that right now that doesn't exist in this way. Three-dimensional fabric make like just with a new process. And it is very important for my company, but it could be important for all companies. Get an idea from needs of the artist. And from one need, one idea, they need to develop something new for reach the level of communication that artist needs. I think I couldn't ask something better.
Fantastic, thank you. I think that's the good closing words for our conversation here.
Can you sit there again?
Yes, thank you very much. Thanks to all of us. Thanks. Okay. Thank you. That was a thank you to everyone. Yes. Com'è?
Mi ha voluto fare lo scherzo, ho toccato un
Anche
messaggio.
Ma
using
ti toccava,
bellezza.
era giusto, sì. Sì.
Oh, io mi sono divertito molto.
No, la domanda è se in futuro si potrebbe convincere qualche gruppo di finanziare in qualche modo progetti cosa simile?
Sì, è assolutamente vero. Il problema è che i soldi sono una merce rara.
Lo so bene. Lo so bene. Io ti lancio la domanda, non te lo
Vediamo,
non te l'ho fatto dalla sola.
Ma vediamo.
Buono.
Ma insomma, io ho investito tanto in questa cosa, nel senso, loro lo sanno. Non tanto in soldi.
Where's Fiori? Francesco. Fiori is Fiori, it's your turn. No, it's to you. 17:30. Perfectly on time.
So do I sit alone? So hello, shall I start? Thank you very much. Sono molto salve di essere qui in Italia, a Firenze di nuovo, perché ho fatto un anno a Economia e Commercio, allora sono molto felice di ritornare a Firenze, a Toscana comunque. So you raised some very important issues earlier, and I would like to start with the problem that you referred to. So here I am, I'm representing the two cups, let's say, the two hats that I hold, being on one hand the country coordinator of Fashion Revolution. Fashion Revolution is the biggest global movement for a fairer and cleaner fashion industry. Fashion Revolution, for those of you that don't know, is active in 107 countries at the moment. We were created, the founders are in Ursula and Kari in London, and we started together with them in 2013 after the accident of the Rana Plaza, the factory that collapsed in Bangladesh. And at the moment, we had a reach last April of 254 million people.
Our hashtag is Who Made My Clothes? So this is what we want people to ask. And we had impressions of about 700 million impressions, and 3,800 labels replied to the questions of consumers, I made your clothes, and specifically how they did that. And the other hat is SOFA, that's the social fashion factory that Dimitris mentioned earlier, that integrates victims of human trafficking and refugees in the production of eco-sustainable fashion in Greece. Dimitris is one of the supporters and customers, collaborators with SOFA. So we will be happy now to launch his dress and do the production of the dress. So from my experience, coming to the issues of fashion, we consume more. We consume 60% more than we used to consume 14 years ago. We keep it for half the time we used to keep it 14 years ago. We create about 2.1 billion tons of waste yearly, annually. Apart from waste, we pollute water. So to make a t-shirt, the need in water, it's equivalent to 78 showers. And to make a pair of blue jeans is equivalent to 238 showers. We consume in the fashion industry 4% of drinkable water that's available for humanity. We create a huge problem to CO2, to the greenhouse CO2 emissions. We create more emissions than the international airline and the maritime industry aggregated together. So in terms of health, there was research here in Italy, UNEP, together with hospitals in 2014. They identified that that products were entering Italy that were intoxicated with chemicals. Only to tell you that 40% of all chemicals produced are used in fashion. So the hospitals actually, after this research in 2014, it was found out that 8% of all dermatological diseases in Italy were due to chemicals in textiles. And that's how there was a change in the legal structure and everything here in Italy. In terms of chemicals now, and waters, the issue of plastic, washing our synthetics creates as much as 50 billion plastic, the plastic moleculars of 50 billion plastic bottles in the seas. So from that you can understand that fashion is a big problem at the moment for both and I haven't touched at all the issue of humanity and modern slavery. That's more my area, where fashion is the second in human trafficking. We have 25 million people living in modern slavery, based on Global Slavery Index 2018. The biggest industry is fashion, with about 80% women, and 1 out of 4 is children. So how to resolve now and act? You made a very important remark earlier about how do people respond to addressing these issues and resolving these issues. So we're very happy and optimistic to see that millennials look 3 times more into the impact of a business, especially when they opt for somewhere to work for, but also for what they want to consume. And Generation Z, that's people that were born in 1995 and after that, Generation Z is even more drawn to that, and they're even more eager to change, to make the world a better place, and they want water and health for everyone. based on a recent research done by the OECD, the Organization for Economic Cooperation in Europe. I joined recently, last month, the annual forum on garment and footwear that took place in Paris. And there were amazing things being discussed. Labels are doing a lot of things. Under Armour and ASOS, they're responding. So based on a research of OECD in 11 countries and 12,000 households, it was revealed that, of course, cost and price are determinants of consumer buying behavior, but green consumerism is very much important at the moment, and people and consumers are willing to pay more in order to buy something that is sustainable. So what can we do to address the issues that fashion creates? So you mentioned recycling. So although it's the end, okay, the last thing that we want to get to is recycling. It's when we can not do anything else. We can reuse, which is upcycle, and it's becoming very trendy. We can take good care of our clothes. We can wash less. We can consume less, buy less, keep more. We can swap, as Dimitri said. Rentals, clothing rentals at the moment are very trendy, and they're opening up in many European countries. And they provide access to couture, and craftsmanship is very important. Artisanal, couture, bespoken, so tradition, as you mentioned. Textiles are very important. The use of textiles that are plant-based, so they may be through chemical processes, but they come from plant and instead of oil. And then we have the recycle of textiles, and which is an important parameter. In Paris, in France at the moment, they banned labels. Labels are not allowed anymore to throw out waste. They have to share it, reuse it, or recycle it. And I would like to link that with art and the importance of artists in raising these issues. So I would like to show the video from Raise Your Voice Festival. That was an initiative of Fashion Revolution in Greece last November. And together with co-organizer of the Hellenic Clothing Industry Association, Dimitris was a very active participant, along with other artists. There was this challenge. So one of the parallel activities of the festival was the art exhibition and costume exhibition, and we asked artists and fashion designers to actually to showcase how art can react to human slavery, actually, to human slavery. Can we show, can we, the Raise Your Voice video, is it possible to watch this video?
I am one of the victims. When I came here, the people who brought me, they didn't tell me that are going to slave me. They told me I'm coming to do a knitting, which I'm doing because that is what I was doing back home as living. But when I came here, that is when I found out that these people, they are trading girls from Africa to sell them to some other people to go and work in their houses without salary, without day off, without nothing. I was 29.
I am flesh, bones, I am skin, soul, I am human, nothing more than human.
this thing, it has to stop because people, they are using human like animals and they like slaves, for which it is not, it's not right. The authorities, they have to take action because we have to stand together and be one voice.
وأنا هلا مشاركة بحصة الرقص ومبسوطة كتير إنه المهرجان بيضم جميع الجنسيات من مختلف الجنسيات. كتير أنا مبسوطة بهذا الشيء، بحس إنه عندي نشاط للشيء وحب. بحب إني شارك هيك، وبحب إني شارك بالطبخ بالرقص هيك أشياء بتسلى، بدخل لي أشياء حلوة على حياتي. وكتير ناس مناح والشعب اللبناني كتير أنا حبيته كتير من قلبي.
Forced labor is a horrible crime that concerns 25 million people that are working under conditions of slavery. They are hidden behind our clothes and services. We are the demand, so we raise our voice and we say end human trafficking. So that was a case of how, in this festival, Raise Your Voice, it was an organization of 52 NGOs, 300 participants, 4,000 people joined on a rainy day. It was organized within 1 month and a half, almost no budget, through volunteering of everyone. And that's an example how art and culture generally, through its different expressions, can actually demonstrate and send important and raise important messages in the fight against human slavery and also in the protection of the planet. Another thing that I wanted to raise in terms of textiles, it's important and for human slavery, but also for the contamination that garments create. It's the issue of traceability. And right now it's a very big, everybody that calls us in SOFA, they asked for the origin of the textile. So origin is an important, and in Italy there is a new breakthrough, a new project that's a collaboration among IBM and OECD to use blockchain technology to identify the traceability in garments, in clothing and footwear. And that's a solution to actually be able to identify chemicals, but also the social element and minimum wage. Before closing, if we can see also the video from Social Fashion Factory to give you another example. SOFA is a social cooperative which 60% of the shareholders are asylum seeker refugees. It produces, as you will see, from materials that are from recycling. For example, we have an order and we provide vocational training to help people stay off the streets. But training happens in real orders that we get from international customers. And we try to use for these orders as sustainable processes and textiles as we can. So we do zero waste. For printing, we use natural handcraft printing with man-made natural colors. We try to locate production. We want production to be 100% local. We try to identify, and we mostly can, from farming, and that is also through a collaboration and support that we received and long discussions that we had with the Hellenic Clothing Industry Association, and they're helping us in, resolve this huge mess, because as you know, textile at a certain, especially cotton at a certain point becomes a blend, and then you lose the traceability again. So we know our weavers. We don't buy textiles, out in the market. We buy them from our weavers, and we make sure to know which were the spinners, which were the grinders, where they were farmed. We opt for clean coat. Greece has 0% organic, but has a very high-level clean coat, non-GMO, low in pesticides, one of the highest qualities, objective technical qualities, and comparatively less energy efficient. So these are things that we want to show to our customers, and that's how they switch from organic to Greek clean cotton, as we're not sure whether, organic, we believe, and that's, I don't know where you stand on that, but we believe that organic cotton is mostly the production of human slavery to counterbalance the high cost. And more or less, I could say that this is the case with everyone that I've talked to. So it's clean cotton, traceability and textiles is important to us. A customer that we just had, and we need to make for them 4,500 beach bags. So our designers thought of upcycling the bags that are used for the collection of olives in the farming. And so we contacted the nearest market, food market, to see whether we can use, these bags that they are throwing away and use them to create the beach bags. So this is a way of upcycling waste and diverting from landfill. So please, if we can see the second video. The second video, the sofa video, please.
Oh, look at her now, down on her knees, tries to stand up but crumbles, dust on her feet, no air to breathe, dreams unfulfilled still haunt her. Enabling voices within, call her to
So SOFA started from, if you remember from the last time we talked, started through mobile teams in refugee camps and in shelters of women, in shelters of survived or rescued women from sex trafficking. Now we have our own home in Botanikos in downtown Athens, where we have our production studio. And we provide training and we produce there. And hopefully we're fundraising to make our bigger space within this area. This is a refugee workshop area. With reference to the sneakers that you saw and that also Dimitris referred to, we haven't been able to, we're using only sustainable textiles, vegan microfiber, leather from recycled plastic, and clean cotton for the, but we haven't been able yet to develop. We're still looking for the right partner, the right factory that can actually make it for us. We've been to Portugal, we've been to all factories in Greece. So if you know anyone in Italy, we will be happy to collaborate with. That's athletic vintage. So that's more from me. I don't know if you want to enter into discussion about the issues. Yeah. How many people is SOFA employing at the moment? So SOFA has employed 21 people, 10 Greeks, unemployed Greeks, and 21 refugees and survivor victims, and has provided training to 21 people. Yes? We're very much into being linked and collaborate. There is Stitch by Stitch in Germany. There is in Verona Progetto Quid that works with women from various from La Galera, from prison and there are a couple of ones we identified in the US, and we've emailed them, but they haven't replied. One was in Texas, and which one? I don't know them, if you would like to list. But yes, we try to collaborate. But at the moment, we've been helped a lot through the Fashion Revolution movement, because I think we haven't been out yet as SOFA, but we've been getting a lot of orders from Singapore, from Sweden, from Netherlands. And I believe that this is through the network of Fashion Revolution and word of mouth. We're made to order. So we only produce for, usually it's designers, sustainable designers. So they give us the designs and we do the patterns. There are other ones that they want us to design for them. So we also can design. So we can do anything from doing the design, the pattern, the prototype sample, the actual production, the whole communication strategy for that, short videos. And of course, the choice of the textiles. Yes? There's been a very big change the last 5 years. So in the beginning, there is Fashion Revolution publishes a Fashion Transparency Index the last 3 years, every April. And that is measuring the transparency of the industry. And then the last year it was 150 labels, that's the biggest labels. The positive thing is that there is a big change in the level of transparency of labels. So there are labels that they have increased, 18%, and even more, but no one is beyond about 52% of transparency level at the moment. In the beginning, there were very few labels that were answering, and so we're mostly a digital campaign. So people take a picture of the clothes, the label of their clothes, they post it on Facebook or Instagram, hashtag who made my clothes, hashtag tag the label, and then the label during the week, April week, Fashion Revolution Global Week, is supposed to reply to the customer, I made your clothes, and all the stages and tiers, the levels. So we had very few in the beginning, as you can imagine. And in 2017, there were about, I think, 2,000 replies, 2,100. Last year, there were 3,888 replies, which is a big change. You see at the moment, I saw it also in the OECD conference that I was last month in Paris. You see that everybody states that within these 5 years, there's been tremendous change, and that labels are very willing to get into discussions, and they're very willing to sponsor new projects that have to do with minimum wages. So there are new projects now in Cambodia, in Ethiopia, that the new sustainable industry in Ethiopia, and there are collaborations between ILO, between Industry for All, I think it's a trade union, the global trade union, local industries and factories, and big label like ASUS and Under Armour and others. So there is a big, and I think this is attributed to the fact that consumers care, and they know that there is the problem with the upcoming, drop in the growth of the fashion industry, and on the other hand, you have this high growth in the sustainable fashion industry. So it's only, it's a matter of numbers to move into this sector, and they know it. They have the radars open, so they know it. So there is a very big change. There is also greenwashing a lot happening. So you see H&M on one hand saying that, having the new collection, the conscious collection, and saying that they recycle. But then on the other hand, I posted on my wall about, I think, 2 months ago, that 85,000 workers in Cambodia and India were paid 1/3 of minimum living wage. But again, that's a good thing, because they also may not know it, and they have to learn about it. So yes, there is a big change. Yes.
Isn't there a question of business models? The large brands have a business model which essentially makes sustainability impossible. You yourself say the large brands are falling, and new brands, new companies, sustainable Everlanes or whatever,
Yeah.
are rising with totally different business models. Do you see any examples of large brands that are transforming their actual business models?
Business models changing business models is very important. It's also attributed to changing consumer behavior from fast fashion. So fast fashion creates big problems, and that is something that everyone is willing to change, or is in discussion to change. Factories, in order for them to be able to pay minimum living wage, have to actually have some guarantee that they will not be squeezed by labels. So labels now coming into these discussions and this tripartite, as they are called, partnerships, because partnerships is everything, as you very well said at the panel. They're actually making commitments that they will allow space for that to happen, and that things are changing. Based on what the ILO is celebrating 100 years now, 2019, and based on their research that they announced on the future of works in fashion, there are some important changes that they foresee. And that has to do with digitization in fashion, which will change a lot. That's the business model, automation and digitization. They perceive that human resource, human work, but job positions will drop a lot. That production will come a bit closer to consumption. Nigeria and Asia are the big new markets that will drive the forces. And of course, climate and sustainability. New textiles, that's also a very big trend, new textiles. And the technology around new textiles. Of course, we see all the debate. I mean, once we were going and opting for vegan fuel, and now we learned that it's all these chemicals in the water. And there is this open debate, which is not a bad thing, because there's all this innovation happening all the time. So I think that these are the trends in terms of business models. Some of the trends I know of. Something else? Yes, I mean the replacement of cotton from bamboo, the replacement of leather from pineapple. Yes, all these new, yes, the orange fibers that are now used. You know better from that. I don't know, Thanos, do you want to say something about new textiles and? Yes, about hemp, yes, and how it can be used also, yes. So this is plant-based. There is also a trend now to use food waste for dyeing, and that's also a new trend in sustainability. We have a lot of concepts and startups in Greece from the waste of textiles like bags and jewelry. Yeah, it's more or less that. Plastic bottles and plastic is the big thing right now. Make me think. New polymers coming from plants and so on. Yes, that's a problem. Sorry, you said polyester coming from? New polymers coming from plants. Okay, okay. Another issue is designing clothes from the beginning, having in mind. So everything has to do with when the life of a garment ends and how prolonging this life. So one thing is how to take care, like amendments, like washing less, but also it has to do with production and design. So designers have to consider the end of the life of a garment from when they actually create it. Biodegradable materials and how it will end, how the life will end of this garment is a very important issue at the moment for fashion production. And using resources that do not age, that are self-cleaned. So there are very issues. And this is trendy, which is very, yeah, it's very positive. Thank you very much. I don't know if you want to close the... Yes, thank you.
So, thank you. I take the floor just to thank everyone for this very interesting panel. So we are really very happy that this final workshop took place here in Prato, where the project began. And now we have just very few minutes because the very important event of next 2 days in Prato, so the Circular Economy Festival is going to be open officially here. So I would ask you to stay with us for the opening of this very important event. So I'm not going to make to sum up anything. So I would like just to add some my personal impressions about to date, but generally speaking, also about the results, the output of the project. So I was really impressed by the figures that Paolo presented, because yes, we are at the very end of the project. The project is going to end in 2 months, and it was very interesting and important to see how many output we reached. I mean, I think it's impressive, the number of the new hubs that have been added to the first set of hubs. So 7 more hubs joining the partnership. And also I was really impressed by the total numbers of companies, of professionals, of people, of associations involved in the project. So I think that we got very important results, and quite more important from what we could expect at the very beginning. So it's I think that the outputs has been we reached are very interesting, and also we are very proud that the exhibition of the items which have been developed through the collaboration among the different hubs have been presented here. We saw very interesting materials. And I think that the project has been able to blend a lot of situations, countries, people from different professional paths. So artisans and craftsmen with industrials, with young professionals, with teachers, with trendsetters. And we also saw through the activities that have been carried on, but also through the artworks that has been put on display here in the museum, also blending a lot of materials like handcrafted textiles, hand-painted textiles, together with contemporary industrial textiles. And so I think that they are simply very interesting, and in my opinion, it is very important to give as much evidence as possible to all these results. And I would also like to thank Jesse for making these links with this very important topic that we are going to deal with in the next 2 days here in Prato, a topic which has been one of the most important topics treated by TCBL project, that it was not so central and strategic in Creative Wear project, but it came out in every hub, because of course it's one of the most important issues of contemporary textile production. So I really hope that this experimentation that we carried on will leave to all the participants the wish and the idea and to go on with this collaboration among textile production, industrial productions, and art and artists. So thank you again for joining the meeting and this event, and thank you to all.